This really is one of the best times of the year. Birds are singing, flowers are blooming, and we're once again reminded that IndyCar is the best open wheel series. Sorry, I don't make the rules. I just like oval racing, or rectangle racing. If you haven't been paying attention thus far, here's the rundown. Week 1, Monza-style calamity allows Marcus Ericsson to open up the season with a win. Week 2, Award tries to set up a late pass, but then Grosjean happens, allowing Newgarden to claim his second consecutive Lone Star win. Week 3, Kyle Kirkwood puts on a clinic to win his first race, and of course, Grosjean finishes second. Week 4, with a late rally, Scott McLaughlin picks up the Scott McLaughlin win, and of course, Grosjean finishes second. Then in Week 5, Alex Palou returns to championship form to win the Indy GP, though I think there's another Indy win he'd like to have even more. Yep, this year's been about as crazy as they come. 5 different winners in the first 5 races, and the top 7 are all within 50 points of each other. On paper, the next race should be just another chapter, but even with regular style points, the Indy 500 is still do or die. But before we take a look at the grid, let's take a moment to remember the fallen.
Madness. This is the Indy 500.
In all seriousness, we couldn't have asked for a more intense end to qualifying. And while Graham Rahal continues to face the twilight of his career, his teammates in Jack Harvey, Christian Lundgaard, and Catherine Legge will all have a shot at racing's greatest prize, with Legge in particular becoming the fastest woman in Indy 500 history. The only problem is they'll be making up the rear of the grid, only joined by the best name in racing, Stingray Robb. He's got about a 0% chance of winning, but man do I want to see his name on the Borg Warner Trophy. Moving up, you have R.C. Anderson with Unable Motorsports and the Juncos Hollinger pair of Callum Ilott and Augustin Canapino, whose self-sabotage in Long Beach can give us hope for at least some debauchery. We got a few more mid-packers in Delvin DeFrancesco, Stefan Wilson, and I'm just going to say it, Marco Andretti, which means I can finally talk about the drivers that actually have a shot. So it's currently 8 a.m. the day after I recorded this video, and a lot of stuff has changed. During practice yesterday, Stefan Wilson was involved in an accident where he fractured a vertebra, and guess who's going to replace him? My joke is ruined. In all seriousness, I am happy for Graham Rahal, and I do wish Stefan Wilson a speedy recovery. 21-year-old David Malukas is making his second attempt, and if one thing's been made clear in his young career, he knows how to make left turns. Unfortunately, he's with one of the flakiest teams in IndyCar, having to resort to a partnership with Rick Ware just to get a second car on the grid. But with some strategic wizardry and an in-car miracle, we could be seeing the Indy 500's youngest winner ever, though he may not want to look to his left. He may be getting older, but Simon Pagenaud knows how to win this race, and the same could be said for his 20th starting teammate, Helio Castroneves. It's true that some of the magic died off since their departure from Penske, but as long as they have a car on the grid, you can never count them out. And come on. The thought of Spider-Man breaking the 4-time record has to exhilarate even the most stoic fans. Those same fans tend to give the highest praise to Colton Herta, and I gotta say, I don't get the hype. His talent has produced a number of breathtaking moments, and it would be interesting to see how he stacks up in Formula 1, but as of right now, it's been over a year since he's won. Things are getting worrisome in the 26 camp, though at least they have some wins to boast of. Roman Grosjean has been flirting with the top step just about every single week thus far, and each and every time he comes up short. I just want to make it clear, he will win a race. Just not this one. His track record on the ovals is sordid at best, and as a whole, the team just hasn't had the speed it once had with RHR. Wait, Ryan Hunter-Reay is still here? In an unsponsored Dreyer and Reinbold car? And he qualified top 20? I'd write him off, but we've seen what he can do. It'll be good to see him back, though it'll also be his first non-Andretti start since the one-off he made back in 2011 to keep his sponsor from jumping ship. Don't think we've forgotten about that, DHL. Starting 17th in his annual quest to come up short is Joseph Newgarden. It's not like he doesn't perform on the ovals, in fact they've hosted 12 of his 26 wins. But for whatever reason, whenever the last weekend of May rolls around, he just can't deliver. I wouldn't put any money on him, or his teammates Will Power and Scott McLaughlin for that matter. Don't get me wrong, 12th and 14th starting spots are nothing to scoff at, but for the team that literally owns this place, it's pretty disappointing. Speaking of disappointing, Connor Daly's rolling off in 16th, and after a 6th place run in last year's race, he's looking to finish 5 spots better. You see, he's got something that most of the other drivers don't, and that's the power of NASCAR. Now, he might have finished 6 laps down and only made the Daytona 500 on a wing and a prayer, but you can bet he's going to take that experience and use it to shock the world, or get another face full of tire. On the outside of row 5, not long removed from his first win, is the best of the Andretti's, Kyle Kirkwood, and to the inside is the seemingly ageless Ed Carpenter. Neither of these guys are favorites by any means, but if you're looking for a dark horse, they might be the ones to watch. And now we've reached the top 12, the fastest of the fast. And since we already talked about Penske, we'll go straight to the 11th place starter, Benjamin Peterson? The rookie F3 defect racing for a team that hasn't won in over a decade? Yeah, right, next you're going to tell me that his teammate qualified 4th? He of 0 wins, podiums, and IQ? I guess it makes sense since he's so used to finishing 4th, but the thought of Santino Ferrucci winning in AJ Foyt's iconic 14 honestly makes me sick. I wouldn't be too worried though. Odds are he'll fuck up, get everyone to hate him, and go back to finishing sub 20th where he belongs. An impressive qualifying effort we can actually be happy about is the second place starter, 22-year-old Rinus VeeKay, who's never qualified worse than 4th for this race. Unfortunately, the results don't tend to match, with last year's being especially painful. But this year, he's starting one spot better, and no doubt is returning with a vengeance. Be sure to look out for the Ed Carpenter 21. Now you might be wondering, why did I start going out of order? Am I stupid? Well yes, but also because I wanted to save the best for last. The Battle of the Titans. The true fight this will boil down to, and my pick to win it all.
Battle of victory! McLaren! Martin! Ganassi! Begin!
If last year told us anything, it's that these are the teams to watch. Their lineups read like a Hall of Fame battle. It starts with the defending winner of this race, Marcus Ericsson, who may be starting as the worst of the best, but also proved that sometimes all it takes is being in the right place at the right time. Next up, making the final start of his storied career is Tony Kanaan. Last year, he drove his one-off Ganassi Honda to a 3rd place finish, and this year he's flipping the script with McLaren. Now I won't sugarcoat it. He's the oldest driver in the field and hasn't won in almost 9 years. But take it from Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. Your final race always puts a little extra pep in your step, so keep an eye out for TK to go for his 2nd Indy 500. Starting beside him is a driver who already has 2 500s, though his career has been anything but illustrious. Takuma Sato is one of those great talents who shines from time to time, but can't quite break through as a legit contender. Now he's been relegated to a part-time basis with Chip Ganassi. But also it's Chip Ganassi. I'm sure he'll have no problem staying toward the front, and the same could be said for the newest addition to the McLaren vanguard, Alexander Rossi, whose career thus far has been quite the coaster. He's been both a contender and an underachiever, though winning the 100th Indy 500 in your rookie year does set quite the precedent. He'll do his best to run it back, though it won't be easy, because starting ahead of him may be the most terrifying driver on the grid. In a time where IndyCar's parity seems to be through the roof, Scott Dixon remains the only constant. With his last win, he surpassed Mario Andretti on IndyCar's all-time wins list, and like Andretti, he's in the midst of a deeply rooted curse. Since his sole Indy 500 win 15 years ago, he's been unable to break through for a second, despite being the car to beat almost every year. We'll see if he can finally break the curse, but to do that, he'll have to break through the McLaren standing in his way. To his left, Pato O'Ward, who almost lived the dream last year, but was forced to lift into turn 1, a mistake he'd be hard-pressed to make again. And ahead, starting in 3rd, is Felix Rosenqvist, the European Formula 3 champion whose stint with McLaren hasn't been nearly as fruitful, but this year he starts ahead of his teammates and you can bet he'll put that clean air to good use. It'll be an intense battle to be sure, but there's only one way I see it ending. You can call me boring, unoriginal, uninspired, but I don't care. He has an unsettled bet with this race after he lost it with 2 laps to go 2 years ago. Since then he's won a championship. He's won 4 races. He's won the previous race at this very place, and by the way, he's starting on the pole with the fastest speed in the fastest field ever. With that much momentum, he has every reason to smoke the competition, which is why I think that Alex Palou will win the 2023 Indianapolis 500. I'm so sorry, Alex. After my last prediction videos, I feel like I need to make this clear. Anything can happen, especially in a sport this turbulent and a race this unpredictable. Any of these guys can take the checkered flag, except Santino. Anyone but Santino.
Ganassi! Begin!
I'm not doing that again. That is the last. No. Take that. That's a one-take wonder. I'm not doing it again. I don't care how bad it is. I don't care how much the microphone peaked. That's it. I'm not doing it again. Sorry to my neighbors.